Good morning, Janelle. I'm a freelance energy analyst, and I'm meeting Janelle, who's concerned about the effects of an Australian carbon tax.
Yes, good morning, Martin. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to ask you some questions that I'm actually sure I regard myself as a normal average Joe Blow in Australia, and I'm sure that I'll be asking questions that many people would like the simple, straightforward answers to. So, the first question I'd like to ask is, what is the aim of the tax?
The aim of the tax is to prevent climate change by a switch to renewable energy, but it won't work. It is doubtful that renewable energy would result in less climate change than fossil fuel energy.
Well, I'm not really very clear on that, and I don't really understand, because everyone assumes that the renewable energy is better because it doesn't produce carbon dioxide. So is that not right?
Yeah, that's correct, but it's only part of the story, Janelle. To produce, say, 40 kilowatt hours of electricity, all the energy in the heat equivalent of 100 kilowatt hours of coal eventually ends up as low-grade heat in the environment. All the coal's energy heats up the air, oceans and earth, and some is lost into space. And because there is 40% efficiency, the supply of 40 kilowatt hours to a home results in 100 kilowatt hours of global warming.
So those statistics are very interesting.
But the difference between coal is that with a wind turbine, only about 2% of the energy in a parcel of air wind is recovered, and 98% of the kinetic energy is converted into heat by the propeller blades and bearings. It warms up the dirty air downwind of the wind turbine, and for 40 kilowatt hours of electricity supply, as before with a coal, not 100 kilowatt hours altogether of global warming, but 2,000 kilowatt hours of global warming. That is 20 times more than with coal. A wind turbine warms up the air that much, and measurements of this have been published.
Whoa, well, I haven't seen those, but that's really incredible. Is that more warming than is saved by not producing carbon dioxide?
I think so. I've not done the numbers, but it looks as though a wind turbine is a climate unfriendly piece of technology.
Well, that's amazing as well, because if that's true, then people are barking up the wrong tree. And what about solar?
Well, sadly, it's the same story. Photovoltaic panels are highly inefficient too, with conversion of radiation energy into much more heat energy than the small amount of electricity produced.
So they aren't any good either.
Solar photovoltaic panels come into their own on yachts and for caravans. Like wind turbines, small units have their place where a gridded supply of cheap coal-fired electricity isn't available. In Uruguay, a windy country, small wind turbines have been used for the past 40 years on estancias or ranches not connected to the grid, long before pollution became an issue.
So you don't think renewable energy is available? Then what will be the effect of the carbon tax? Will I have to pay it?
Well, no, you won't, Janelle. The only people who will pay directly are 500 companies, for example, electricity suppliers.
So how will they get their money to pay? How will they get the money to pay?
They'll put up their prices. And for for example, electricity prices will rise.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that I will have to pay.
No, the government will compensate you so you won't be worse off, they say.
No, I can't see that, in that they will be giving back to me all of the tax they collect from me. I can't see them doing that.
Well, they don't give back all the tax they collect.
No.
Some energy users won't get it back.
Well, who won't?
Well, industrial users won't. So they will have to put... industrial users won't, yeah.
So what will they do? They'll put up their prices too.
Yeah, they will, and so the products manufactured by industrial users in Australia will be, in fact, more expensive, and that will mean that imports will become cheaper.
So, could the carbon tax reduce Australian manufacturing?
Yeah, it will. And,
so why would we? If it's going to stop manufacturing in Australia, how could we say that it's going to be beneficial to Australia? All that's going to happen is that the government's going to fund development of cheap renewable resources in other developing countries.
The government's going to put some money into renewable technologies, but the ones that we have so far found are 2 to 4 times more expensive, and the carbon tax won't make them more attractive because they are intrinsically less reliable and unsuitable for supply to conventional baseload markets.
So they're not more reliable because they depend on the weather?
Yes, and also nighttime too. They don't work. Well, solar doesn't work at night. They may only operate a small fraction of a year, and not in darkness at all, or in bad weather when heat and light are most required at those times.
But won't they require more research to improve? And with more experience, wouldn't they improve?
Well, I don't think it'll be enough. A massive investment is needed in these technologies. They're so expensive. It would take 1,000 large wind turbines to output as much as a single large power station,
wow.
Even if the wind blew steadily. Their cost and the cost of storage batteries for off-peak times would be far more than fossil fuels, even with a carbon penalty.
So what do you think the carbon tax should be spent on then?
Well, that's easy. I think they should just give it back and scrap the tax. It doesn't make any sense. We need to use the planet's fossil fuels, especially petroleum, more sustainably. But the carbon tax doesn't encourage sustainable motoring. A petroleum tax would reduce...
Right. Okay, so they're going to reduce the amount of climate change, and because of the car exhausts. Yeah,
the petroleum has a dramatic effect on climate change. The car exhausts spew out masses of heat, masses of water vapour, and some carbon dioxide. I've calculated that humans' water vapour pollution of the air has caused more global warming than carbon dioxide. Carbon is black and easy to see. That's why they've taxed it, because it's a solid. But it's not the worst stuff for climate change.
Well, what is?
Petroleum. But peak oil is past, and global warming will be slowed as human transport becomes more efficient when supplied with electricity, mostly coal-fired. Coal-fired.
Right, and so that's another whole topic that I would at some point be interested to find out about. But thanks, Martin, because it is strange that your opinions seem to be so different from the political speakers that I've heard in the media and that ordinary people like me have access to. So thank you again.
Well, if I am saying something the others aren't saying, I regard their opinions as simply outrageous. There are so many ill-informed people out there. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Janelle, and I hope that we can move on and people start to listen to the message. Basically, renewable energy ain't any better than coal.
Thank you.